there was too many minutes. He was playing too many darn minutes. I actually was covering that game, and he was playing 35 something minutes. And I'm all for him playing every game. That's not the thing, but playing 35 minutes, I just felt like it was a lot, and it's natural. I can tell you, it wears on you regardless of what your body is talking to you saying, okay, we need to slow back. So obviously you take practice time off. We know he doesn't like to miss practice, and he wants to play in games, and he's playing to win. I get it.
Vince Carter just reignited one of basketball's oldest arguments, and this time the conversation feels even bigger. Because this isn't coming from some random sports account chasing attention online. This is a Hall of Famer speaking, a player who spent more than 20 years in the NBA, battled through both conferences, and earned the kind of respect where people actually stop and listen when he talks. Then one viral clip started spreading everywhere, and suddenly LeBron James was right back in the center of the debate. Fans immediately started arguing again about those 8 straight NBA Finals appearance, an achievement many see as untouchable. But the discussion quickly shifted towards something more controversial: how much those finals runs should be weighed when the path through the Eastern Conference often looked far less brutal than the battles happening every night in the Western Conference at the same time. And once that conversation started, the internet exploded all over again.
You preserve him in the first half, and you play your bigger minutes in the second half when he gets better. So I just feel like you have to find time to dial him back, because do you need LeBron James more in the beginning of the season when AD's playing like this, or do you need him from the middle to the back end of the year? I think.
And that's where the real tension in this debate begins. Nobody is arguing that LeBron James wasn't elite. Nobody is denying that he dominated an entire era of basketball. The real conversation is about how that dominance happened, and whether the environment around him made the road a little smoother than many fans want to admit. That's the part setting social media on fire right now. Because no matter how you look at it, LeBron's resume is still unbelievable. 10 NBA Finals appearances overall, including the famous streak from 2011 through 2018 that many people consider one of the greatest sustained runs in league history. But the point Vince Carter seems to be leaning toward is that finals appearances alone don't always tell the entire story, especially when one conference was widely viewed as much tougher than the other during that era. And honestly, that's where things become uncomfortable for some LeBron supporters. First glance, the numbers look overwhelming. 8 straight finals trips sounds untouchable. But once people start looking deeper into the landscape of the league during those years, the conversation changes. The Western Conference was stacked with elite teams almost every season. Night after night, it felt loaded with contenders and brutal playoff matchups. Meanwhile, critics argue the Eastern Conference often had fewer true championship-level threats outside of the top teams. That context became a huge part of the debate surrounding LeBron's dominance, and it's exactly why Carter's comments spread so quickly online. Because the moment people start comparing the paths through each conference, the argument stops being simple and turns into one of the most controversial discussions in basketball history.
It's about the other guys playing well and being aggressive.
And by the other guys playing well, it allows him to rest. He doesn't have to exert so much energy in the first quarter like he had to do when he scored 24 points in game 2, when he scored 24 points and they still were down and he ran out of gas. Yeah. And I mean, he's human. He's going to run out of gas. So those guys exerting themselves in the first quarter and just really just doing what they're doing in the first quarter helps him.
Back then, the Western Conference wasn't just competitive, it felt brutal. Every season seemed packed with contenders. The Los Angeles Lakers were still dangerous, the San Antonio Spurs stayed elite year after year, the Oklahoma City Thunder were rising fast with young stars, and the Dallas Mavericks became a serious championship force. Then things escalated even more. The Golden State Warriors dynasty arrived and completely reshaped modern basketball. The Lob City era of the Los Angeles Clippers turned every matchup into a spectacle, while the Houston Rockets evolved into one of the league's most explosive offensive teams. Night after night, Western Conference teams were fighting through games that already felt like playoff battles before the postseason even started. And that's why many fans and former players don't interpret Vince Carter's comments as bitterness to them. The West during that era felt like a constant war zone, while the Eastern Conference often had fewer elite obstacles standing between LeBron James and another finals appearance. That's really the core of the argument. It's not that LeBron wasn't dominant. Most people agree he absolutely was. The debate is whether his path through the East was less dangerous compared to what stars in the West had to survive every single postseason. During Miami Heat's run from 2011 to 2014, LeBron controlled the conference, but critics argue the road looked smoother than the chaos unfolding on the western side of the bracket. The veteran core of the Boston Celtics was aging. The Indiana Pacers were tough and physical, but many fans still didn't view them on the same level as the top Western contenders. Teams like the Toronto Raptors and Atlanta Hawks had strong regular seasons, but they didn't always create the same feeling of surviving a heavyweight fight every playoff round. And that's the key distinction in Carter's perspective. He's not saying LeBron accomplished nothing. He's saying the environment around him may have provided a cleaner runway than the one stars in the West had to navigate. That's a very different argument than claiming LeBron wasn't great. And because those two conversations get mixed together constantly, basketball fans instantly split into sides every time this debate returns.
As far as inspiration, I didn't take much inspiration from Vince, but I've always admired his ability to do what he did on the floor. So, I mean, this man would jump out of any gym, and that you always kind of had that wild moment when you saw Vince play. But I didn't have much inspiration from him. I gained inspiration from other people.
One side hears Vince Carter's comments and immediately sees disrespect toward LeBron James. The other side hears honest context they believe basketball fans have ignored for years. And that's why this debate never really dies. Both groups believe they're defending the truth about the game, and neither side is willing to give ground. Things became even more intense once LeBron finally moved to the Western Conference. When he joined the Los Angeles Lakers in 2018, expectations exploded instantly. But that first season in the West ended without a playoff appearance, and critics immediately jumped on it. For fans who agree with Carter's perspective, that year became major evidence for their argument. Because after years of controlling the Eastern Conference, LeBron stepped into the West and suddenly the margin for error disappeared. Every week felt tougher. Every playoff race felt crowded. Every stretch of games carried pressure. Of course, injuries were a huge factor that season, and most reasonable fans acknowledge that immediately. But supporters of Carter's argument keep returning to the bigger picture he owed them. The sudden shift in difficulty highlighted exactly what they had been saying all along, that the Western Conference environment during those years demanded a completely different level of survival compared to the road LeBron faced for much of his final streak in the East.
He was playing 35-something minutes, and I'm all for him playing every game. That's not the thing, but playing 35 minutes, I just felt like it was a lot.
The Western Conference just didn't offer the same kind of clear runway that the East seemed to provide during LeBron James's final streak years. Every week in the West felt like a fight against playoff-caliber teams, and the room for mistakes looked way smaller. That doesn't erase what LeBron accomplished in the East, not even close. But it does shine a huge spotlight on just how brutal the Western Conference was during that era. And that's why Vince Carter's comments are being treated as a direct challenge to the idea that finals appearances alone automatically settle every legacy debate. LeBron supporters hear that argument and push back immediately, because the resume still looks legendary from every angle. 8 straight finals appearances is still unbelievable. 10 finals trips overall still places him in historic territory. But the uncomfortable part of the discussion is that numbers never exist in a vacuum. Stats are tied to real circumstances: conference strength, roster construction, injuries, coaching, timing, and the level of competition around you. Ignore those details, and many fans feel you're no longer truly analyzing basketball. You're just counting trophies and reading stat sheets. That's really the heart of Carter's argument. Achievements matter, but context matters too. And what makes the conversation even more interesting is that Carter doesn't come across like someone trying to tear LeBron down in other interviews. He's spoken respectfully about him and even talked about how carefully LeBron's minutes should be managed because of the physical toll that comes with such a long career. That doesn't sound like bitterness. It sounds like a veteran player speaking from experience. Someone who understands how difficult longevity really is and is willing to talk honestly about the realities behind the numbers.
So if LeBron is playing great, I feel like he should be the guy you should throw your jabs at, and because he can take it. He can handle it, because now if I can go at LeBron and AD, I can go at anybody and everybody falls in line. Or they have to fall in line. Because if I can go at the best player, I can go at guys who don't play much and expect the world from these guys because I expect the world from them.
If I'm JJ, I'm pulling
That's tough
LeBron
to do. I
aside.
agree.
I'm pulling LeBron aside and say, listen, I'm about to jump you, man, in front of the team.
Hey.
Don't take it personal, but I am going to get in your ass right now just so I can send a message.
Team. You were on the team in Dallas when Carlisle went at Dirk like that.
Yeah. He pulled basically Dirk aside and said, listen, I'm going to go out. Don't take it personal, but I am going to try and gain.
That's good leadership.
That's
correct. And when we saw that, we're like, well, damn, if he's going to go at this Hall of Famer, what can we say?
Right.
We got to tighten up.
Even when the opinion risks upsetting fans of the biggest superstar in basketball, people still listen closely when Vince Carter speaks, and that's a huge reason this debate exploded so quickly. Because Carter's credibility changes everything. If these comments had come from a random internet personality, the conversation probably would have disappeared within a day. But when a respected Hall of Famer says it, the discussion instantly carries more weight and spreads everywhere across sports media and social platforms. Another reason this topic keeps blowing up is because the NBA has become completely obsessed with legacy debates. Every superstar gets measured against every legend who came before them. Every championship, every finals loss, every playoff run gets turned into another argument about rankings, greatness, and historical status. And LeBron James has been at the center of that storm for years. LeBron himself has pushed back publicly against ring culture and the idea that a career should only be judged by finals wins and losses. So when Carter points out that LeBron's road through the Eastern Conference may have been easier than what stars in the West had to survive, it drops directly into a debate that's already been building for a long time. That's why the reactions online feel so emotional. People aren't just reacting to one quote theory, reacting to years of non-stop arguments about LeBron's championships, finals record, and place among the greatest players ever. What Carter did was say out loud something many basketball fans had quietly believed for years. Everyone already knew how stacked the Western Conference was during that era. The San Antonio Spurs were dangerous almost every season. The Oklahoma City Thunder had elite young talent everywhere. The Golden State Warriors became a dynasty. Other Western teams kept reloading too, but the moment you directly connect that reality to LeBron's finals streak, the achievements start looking different depending on who's telling the story. To some fans, those 8 straight finals appearances remain untouchable dominance. To others, they become tied to conference strength, timing, and the specific road LeBron had to travel. And in sports debates, context often matters more than people want to admit. At the same time, none of this erases LeBron's greatness. Not even close. He still accomplished things very few players in NBA history have ever managed to do, carrying teams deep into the playoffs, adapting across multiple eras, and remaining elite far longer than most superstars ever can. That's why the actual debate is much narrower than social media makes it seem. The conversation is about whether the Eastern Conference made the path to the finals easier, not whether LeBron was somehow overrated or fake. Those are completely different arguments, but online debates usually smash everything together until it becomes non-stop chaos. And honestly, the strangest part is that LeBron's move to the Western Conference ended up giving both sides more evidence for their position. Supporters point to the championship he later won with the Los Angeles Lakers as proof he could still conquer a tougher conference. Critics point to that difficult first Lakers season and argue it immediately revealed how different Western Conference competition really was. That's why this debate refuses to disappear. Not because one side has all the facts and the other side has none, but because the exact same facts can be used to tell 2 completely different stories, and fans keep fighting over which version matters more. What really keeps this argument alive is how personal basketball legacy debates have become in today's NBA culture. Fans don't just argue about stats and championships anymore. Now every playoff run gets dissected like a courtroom case, and every weakness gets replayed non-stop across social media. That's why Vince Carter's comments hit like a bombshell instead of just another sports opinion. A lot of longtime NBA fans believe LeBron James benefited from the timing and balance of the Eastern Conference during his finals streak years. Others argue greatness is about beating whoever stands in front of you, no matter the conference. And that split is exactly why this debate keeps looping back every few years. One side says a finals appearance is a finals appearance. The other side says not every road is built the same. When people revisit those Eastern Conference playoff brackets, many notice how predictable some seasons felt before the playoffs even began. LeBron's teams often entered as overwhelming favorites, while Western contenders had to survive brutal matchups almost every round just to stay alive. That difference became impossible for some fans to ignore. At the same time, LeBron still handled pressure at a level very few players in NBA history ever have. Staying healthy deep into playoff runs, carrying massive expectations, and leading teams year after year takes a rare kind of greatness. Plenty of stars have played in favorable situations before and still failed to dominate the way LeBron did. That's why this conversation gets so heated online. People are really arguing about two different things at once without always realizing it. Point one debate is about LeBron's talent and greatness. The other is about how difficult the road was compared to what stars in the Western Conference faced. Those conversations overlap, but they are not the same thing. Another layer to all of this is how strongly narratives shape sports history now. Once a player's legacy gets locked into public opinion, fans defend it aggressively. Any criticism instantly sounds like disrespect, even when the discussion is really about context rather than ability. That's exactly the reaction Carter's comments triggered. Many people heard them as an attack on LeBron instead of a discussion about conference competition levels, and the players from that era understand the grind better than anybody. Veterans who survived those Western Conference playoff battles know how exhausting those seasons really were. Every series felt dangerous. One bad stretch could eliminate a championship contender instantly. That created a completely different environment compared to conferences where only a few teams were viewed as true title threats. Still, LeBron eventually winning a championship with the Los Angeles Lakers added another twist to the story. Supporters point to that title as proof he could dominate anywhere once the right roster came together. Critics counter by saying it also showed how much tougher the West really was because the path looked far less automatic than some of those Eastern Conference runs, and that's why this argument probably isn't disappearing anytime soon. Carter simply reopened a conversation that never fully went away in the first place. Both sides have points that sound convincing depending on which part of the story matters most to you, and in today's NBA culture, legacy debates have become almost as competitive as the games themselves. At the end of the day, the entire argument comes down to one massive question: how should greatness actually be measured? Is it only about numbers, championships, and finals appearances, or does the level of competition along the way matter just as much? That's the debate Vince Carter pushed back into the spotlight, and fans are still going crazy over it. Some people will always look at LeBron's 8 straight finals trips and see unmatched dominance. Others will look at the conference balance during those years and believe the road itself played a major role, and honestly, both sides have arguments strong enough to keep this discussion alive year after year. What makes it even bigger is that LeBron's career became so massive that every detail gets analyzed under a microscope. Every win, every loss, every playoff run. Everything becomes another battle in the non-stop war over his legacy. That's why comments like Carter's spread so fast online and instantly divide basketball fans everywhere no matter which side someone chooses. One thing is undeniable: LeBron James changed the NBA forever, and debates about his legacy probably aren't going away anytime soon. The East versus West conversation is now part of basketball history itself, and fans are still arguing over what those final streaks truly mean. Now the conversation shifts to the fans. Did LeBron's path through the East make those finals runs easier? Or is greatness still greatness no matter what conference you play in? That debate is nowhere near finished.